You are listening to Smart Women's Dating Podcast, episode number 65. Welcome to Smart Women's Dating Podcast. I am your host, certified life coach Lærke Nielsen, and I help smart, independent women attract the love they deeply desire without having to chase or settle. This podcast will give you the mindset tools and insights you need to finally crack the code to your love life. Are you ready? Then let's go. Hey there. Today I'm going to share with you 5 reasons that could explain why you are still single. And it's going to be like those 5 truths that you might not want to hear, or some of you might not want to hear those. But if you listen and you stay open and you recognize some of this, you have a chance to have a big breakthrough, and this can help you so much in your dating journey. So everything that I'm going to say today, I say it with love. And I want you to know that I've been guilty of basically all of this myself. So I want to invite you to just try and listen and see if some of this resonates with you. Maybe all of the 5 reasons, maybe only some of them. And then I want you to not beat yourself up. Not tell yourself that there's something wrong with you, not make yourself wrong for having done this or thinking like this, but instead focus on the transformations that are available for you. Focus on how you can shift your thinking and how you feel and act so that you create a different result in your dating journey, because that is the point of it all. The point is to help you by making you aware of some of the things you might be doing or thinking that is getting in your way. Now, before we start, I just want to let you know that I had so many challenges with my software for recording this episode. And when I first recorded the whole episode, I realized afterwards that there were some big chunks that were missing, that were not recorded. And so instead of starting all from scratch, I just recorded in the patches where it was missing. So you might hear a difference in the sound, and I hope it's okay. The content is still the same. So let's dive into it. Number 1, the first reason. You have a shitty man mindset. Now, what do I mean by that? A man mindset. That is the thoughts we have about men, and it can be thoughts you have about men in general, or men on the dating apps, or single men that are your age, or men that live in your city. It can be a smaller group like that, but the point is you have some thoughts about them that are getting in your way. And this is, of course, caused by some experiences you've had. You have bad experiences with some men. You might have met guys that were not trustworthy. They were not serious. They were not looking for something serious. They were not capable of inviting you. They were too passive or too lazy. They maybe only were looking for casual, or they could be lying. They could be lying about their age, and when you meet them on an in-person date, they look like their 15 years older cousin, and that's not what you wanted. Also, they could have a really bad sense of humor or not able to follow up, and so on and so on. And then what happens is we generalize. We think that all men that are out there, everyone who is single nowadays, they are like this. Or men that are in this particular group, men in my city or men on the dating apps, they are like this. They are all the same. So what I have seen in the past is exactly what I'm going to see in the future. Now, this is a very normal human thing to do because our brain thinks that if it expects the worst, it cannot be disappointed. So better lower your expectations, better prepare yourself that all men are lazy or all men are not serious and they are lying and so on. And it can feel very true. And you might ask yourself, but what is the problem then? I can only get positively surprised. The problem is that when we do that, we only notice that. We program our brain to only look for men that are like that, or at least notice those much more than we notice anyone else. Our brain loves to find evidence for the thoughts that we are subscribing to, the thoughts that we keep thinking. So we keep finding evidence that is true. men cannot be trusted, for instance. And that will confirm the belief, and you at some point will feel stuck. And the problem here is also that you feel it is outside your control, it's outside yourself. It's actually not something you can change because it's the men that are in the city where you live, for instance. Now, it is quite interesting when you start thinking about your man mindset. And so I thought about the other day, what do I even think about men, like men in general? And I want to say, I really like the company of men. I like having male friends, and I also liked having male colleagues when I was working in corporate. And of course, men in the romantic sense, I love that as well. But I did have some very negative thoughts about men in the dating apps back when I was dating, and I sometimes would assume the worst, and I wouldn't even get to having a date with someone because I sabotaged it before I even met them. I had such a negative mindset just by opening the apps. Now, that of course has changed, but I feel quite certain that if I was to go back on a dating app tomorrow, I still would have to work consciously on my man mindset. I would have to really become aware of what I was thinking because I think that such a place as a dating app with so many different types and so many different qualities of profiles is something that really triggers our negative mindset. So there is, in my opinion, a risk of having all the negative thoughts surface up the minute you start opening an app. And that's why it's so important to become aware and decide on purpose what do you want to think, what do you want to focus on. And deciding what you want to think or focus on purpose, it doesn't mean that you should be lying to yourself or gaslighting yourself or telling yourself that all men are trustworthy and they are all good, because of course they are not. And men that are not trustworthy, men that are not serious, men that are not looking for the same as you, they do exist. And all of the negative thoughts you have about men, of course, they are based on people that you have met and that were like this. But you can choose to not think about this kind of man. You can choose to put your focus on the guys that are actually showing up the way you want your future partner to do. So instead of constantly reminding yourself that there are men out there that cannot be trusted, you want to shift to thinking that there are also men that can be trusted, and this is where you want to put your focus. Now, here's what I want to advise you to do. First, you want to notice what you think about single men your age or single men in the dating apps or in your city. Whatever comes up, whatever feels like the most relevant, try to write down all your thoughts. Do what we call a thought download. You write down all your thoughts, everything that comes to mind when you think about men that are single and that are someone that you could go on a date with. And then ask yourself, do I even like men? Do I like hanging out with them? Do I respect them? Do I trust them? And do I admire them? Try to really get a diagnosis of your thoughts about men. What is it that you in general are thinking about men that are single in your city and at your age? And then the next step is, of course, to challenge your thoughts and ask yourself, if you have a lot of negative thoughts, do I really believe they all are like this? Am I open to being wrong about that? Could it be, just could it be that I'm wrong about that? And here your brain might say, yes, but. And then something comes afterwards that, yeah, but those who are actually good, they're only single for a short time, or they don't want someone my age, they want someone younger, and so on. Try to stop yourself from everything that comes after but. Just notice whether you could be open to being wrong about your thoughts about how there are no good men out there. And I also want you to try to turn it around and ask yourself, what are the chances that there aren't anyone? What are the chances that there's no one out there who's interested in you and who themselves are interesting? If you think of the numbers, if you try to look at how many people live in your area, how many people live there, how many of them are men, how many of them are within your age bracket, and how many of them are single, you can do like a really rough estimate. And then you can ask yourself whether it's even likely that there are not one single person of them that are interesting, trustworthy, commitment ready, and who's looking for someone like you. And then you want to also start noticing when someone around you makes an effort or is kind either to you or someone else. Look at their behavior, and not if you find them attractive, just the way they behave, the way they interact with you and other people as well. And then practice thinking new thoughts. Write down a few thoughts that feel true to you. And it could be, I'm open to seeing that there are good, sincere single men in my city looking for a woman like me. Or it could be, it is very unlikely that there are no good men looking for a woman like me. So when you practice noticing the good men that are out there, you are starting to collect evidence for these thoughts. And also, you want to remind yourself of how many men you just haven't met yet. How many of the men that live in your city have you met, and how many have you not met? It is the big majority that you have never met. And then maybe your brain is going to tell you, yeah, but there's only a few available. And here you just need to remind yourself that you actually only need one. Unless, of course, you're polyamorous, but I'm not assuming that right now. You only need one. So it's not a problem if there's only a few who's looking for a woman like you and that you like, that you find interesting. That only means you need to refine your dating, you need to date in a more smart way, and you need to keep being open to possibility, keep putting yourself out there in the environments where you think he might be. And that's basically everywhere. So you want to decide what to think on purpose, because when you think of men as amazing, strong, generous, loving, fun, intelligent, affectionate, and so on, this is what you're going to attract. And you can ask yourself, how is that even possible? How can I even attract a different person by the way I think? And here I want you to remember that your thoughts are what creates your feelings, and your feelings are what decides how you show up. They are fueling your actions, they are driving your behavior. So when you think that there are men that are awesome, let's imagine you are at a party or that you're at some kind of event and you think, I'm sure there are men here that are awesome. You're going to feel optimistic. You're going to feel excited. And that is going to make you show up in a positive energy. You are open, you are approachable, you're smiling, and you're confident. And that is going to attract a man who also is empowered and confident. So that was number 1, is your man mindset. Pay attention to what you think about men. It's actually quite important. Number 2, the second reason that can explain why you are still single is that you think you're in your feminine energy, but you are not actually embodying it. So you know about feminine energy intellectually. You read all the posts, you listened to the podcast, you've seen the YouTube videos, and so on. So you know what it is and you know what it means, but you are simply not in it. And what does that look like? This is something I sometimes notice when I have a call with a woman and she tells me that she has totally shifted and she's now in her feminine energy. And then she explains to me what she's doing and not doing. And then I notice, or I feel, that she's coming from a masculine energy. She's still trying to control the outcome of a date with a man. And this is where feminine energy is more than just your behaviors. It's also your mindset. Because if everything you do is coming from a desire to control the outcome or to want it to move forward in a certain way, then you might not be coming from feminine energy. And you might actually be chasing in ways that you didn't even realize. And a part of this being in control is also to not be open to letting him pursue you, not be open to him and what he wants to bring to the table. And we don't even realize that either. We might think that we are open to receiving because we are okay with him paying for dinner, for instance. But then what if he suggests something for a date and you instantly have a better idea and you want that to happen instead, or he wants to help you with something and you are not open for that? Then you might not actually be as open as you think you are. This can also show up in a conversation with a man when you're on a date, for instance. You're very eager to share all your thoughts and show him how great you are, of course. And you end up talking much more than him, and if he disagrees with you on something, you automatically try to convince him that you are right. I say this with love because I've been doing this myself so many times, and I can only see that now afterwards. Now, as I said in the beginning of this episode, I don't want you to beat yourself up if you realize you've been doing this. I want you to understand that every time we are eager to take control of a situation, it's usually because we had some past experiences where we were not in control, and either nothing really happened, it didn't work out the way we wanted it to, or we were hurt. So when we have this tendency of wanting to control and feeling attached to creating a specific outcome, it's usually a self-defense mechanism. It's coming from your past programming, and you want to get curious about why you are doing this and ask yourself if you can do it differently. Ask yourself if you can let go of this attachment to wanting to control the outcome, because that is really the key in feminine energy, not being attached to the specific outcome. And when you are with a man and he can feel that you are trying to take charge of a conversation, for instance, and you are trying to chase him or create a certain outcome, or you're not open to receiving from him, he is going to feel that, and he's going to feel that here's a woman who wants to run the show, and she's not giving him space, she's not giving him a chance to pursue her in the way that he wants. And that, of course, can risk pushing him away. I think it's really great that there's so much information out there about feminine energy that you can go practically everywhere online and find a lot of information. But I want you to remember that it's not just about your behavior and the things that you say or do. It's not actually there it all starts. It all starts in your mindset. It's all about your energy. And if you try to implement the behaviors without having worked on your mindset, it might actually not really work the way you want it to. And so, if I was to tell you, how can you start working on your feminine energy mindset, because you already know about the behaviors and what to do, then I want to invite you to try to let go of trying to control a situation with a man. Try to really let completely go of controlling something that is out of your control and take the control back to yourself. That's a good place to start. And then you want to constantly remind yourself that being in feminine energy is very much about allowing the man to come towards you in the way that he prefers to. And then you get to choose if this is what you want or not. We cannot change him or control him, unfortunately. If I had the key to how to do that, of course, I would be rich and you would not be single. Now, reason number three why you still are single is that you give him way too much power. You put him on a pedestal. And this is especially if you also have these thoughts that there are basically no good men out there. And now I finally have met this one guy. Now I have met him. I'm so lucky. I need to be really careful to not mess it up. I need to really try hard to convince him that we're good together. And you might not actually chase him. You might be very conscious about not chasing him, but you are still more attached to him than he is to you. And you put him up there on a pedestal where you start to feel anxious and worried that he's going to lose interest in you, because the premise beneath all this is that he has more value than you. You act as if you're the lucky one and he is too good to be true. Your self-perception is out of alignment with his perception of you. You do not acknowledge your own amazingness in this situation. And this can come across as a bit needy and anxious, but also you are showing him that you're not as high value as he thought. Because a masculine man wants a woman who values herself and who can see why she is a catch. So here you want to work on your thoughts about yourself and pull him down from that pedestal. You had a life before him. He doesn't hold the keys to your happiness. You do. And he's just as lucky as you. And by the way, luck has really nothing to do with it. So practice pulling him down from that pedestal and boosting your own confidence. And then remember to live all the rest of your life still, so that he's not taking too much space and you're not making him your only source of joy. Number 4 reason why you still are single is that you want a committed relationship, but you are not committed to yourself. And that could look like going on and off the dating apps. So you go on a couple of months and then you take a long break and you make a few bad experiences stop you. You want to find love, but you get discouraged very easily and you have like one foot in and one foot out. And you might not want to pay for the app and you easily cancel a date when you are busy at work, for instance. Dating is the one thing that always gets the last priority when you have to choose among your activities. And so here is the thing that might seem a little bit strange, but you have to approach your dating journey from a masculine energy. You have to be decisive, committed, and determined, and this is very much masculine energy. But when you interact with men, of course, you want to do it from a feminine energy. But for you to stay committed, you need to imagine that you focus on a point in the horizon. Focus on a point out there in the horizon rather than what is just in front of you. You want to see dating as a marathon more than a sprint. And of course, you might meet the right man tomorrow. But when you focus on the horizon, you do not get distracted by a few bad dates or bad profiles in the dating apps. You stay on the track. And you know that the only one who can stop you is yourself. If you stay committed, you will find love. And you will find someone who is just as committed as you. So the final reason, number 5, that could explain why you still are single, it has to do with your past programming and role models that you had in your life in past relationships or in childhood. You do not know how to recognize the signs of emotional availability and commitment readiness. You have been conditioned to be attracted to instant chemistry and sparks, and not the healthy, sustainable, reliable affection that grows over time. So if you haven't experienced someone that really shows up for you over a longer time, it can feel very unfamiliar when it happens, and maybe a bit boring, or like you're wondering what is wrong. Your brain is searching for what is wrong. And your system could almost reject this man because it doesn't fit your normal pattern and your nervous system gets confused. So here you want to take a look at your patterns and see if there's something that shows up repeatedly. Do you have a history of attracting emotionally unavailable men? Men that would not want to take the relationship forward and did not want to put a label on it, so to speak? Or do you have a history of attracting men where you feel you're doing all the hard work and they are just passive passengers in the relationship? Or it could be other things, but here you want to sit down and reflect on what are the qualities that you want in a partner. What is it that you want your relationship to look like? Not just right now, but long term. And don't worry about your brain telling you that you can't have that, because you can. You can have exactly what you want, but it starts by you getting very clear on what you want. What are the qualities you're looking for in a man? What is the kind of relationship you want? Sit down and take some time and really think it through and write it out on a piece of paper so you don't forget it. And then remind yourself regularly of what it is that you are looking for, because this is also going to program your brain to search for that. And then the thing is that you might not actually recognize that when you see that in the beginning, because now your nervous system is conditioned to reacting to a certain kind of man that gives you a lot of chemistry and sparks and so on. And then next time you meet someone who's into you and who actually ticks the boxes on your paper, even if you think he might not be that attractive, you don't feel that excited about him, then try to give him a chance. Try to give him 3 to 5 dates and see how it develops. See if your emotions develop. See if you discover something new about him that makes you realize that maybe he is actually interesting. Maybe you can feel attracted to him. So these were the 5 reasons that might explain why you are still single, even though we all know you are super amazing. And I'm just going to do a quick recap here. First of all, there was the man mindset, your thoughts about single men available to you in your city, in your age bracket, and maybe specifically on the dating apps. What are your thoughts about them? you want to choose to think positive and abundant thoughts about these men and feel excited about all the men that you haven't met yet. So your man mindset, that is super important. Number 2 is feminine energy, not really embodying it, not really having the mindset and the energy behind it. And this could all come from having all the intellectual knowledge, but not actually really living it. And then there was number 3, putting him on a pedestal and forgetting your own amazingness, so that you unconsciously create a misaligned balance. You are no longer equal with him. And then number 4, quitting on yourself, not being committed to your own dating journey, which is sort of a meta skill. You want to be committed to what it is you decide to do, and that includes your dating journey. Don't make dating the first thing that goes when you don't have enough time. And the last one is your man picker, or your ability to choose the right men, recognize the right men early on. Now, this is all very good to know about, again, intellectually. And I know that you want to grow and develop in your dating journey, because otherwise you wouldn't be listening to this podcast. You want support and inspiration to move forward in a smarter and faster way than now. And you probably also want a more personalized support, someone who can look at your brain from the outside and tell you what are the thoughts that are getting in your way, what are some ways you can shift your mindset so that your behavior will automatically follow, and so you stay committed to what you want and choose to date the right guys. And I want you to know you do not have to do this alone. So I want to invite you to book a call with me so we can talk about what you desire for your love life, what you want to create for yourself, the man that you want to attract, and the relationship that you want. If you could decide, if you could make all your dreams come true, which, by the way, you can. I would love to talk to you about this, and most likely I can help you. So you can find the link to the call in the show notes, and you can also find it in my Instagram bio at Lærke the Love Coach, and the call is completely free. This was all that I had for you today, and I hope you found it useful and you enjoyed this episode, and I wish you a wonderful week and lots of fun dating. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and you want to get support from a coach on your love journey, I invite you to book a free consult call with me. You will find the link in the show notes. And also, don't forget to subscribe, and I would love it if you would rate and review this podcast, and then you'll also help other women find it.